Hello, my name is Cass, and if you keep up with what's going on in the world today, you'll probably know that Donald Trump is running to be the President of the United States. A big part of his presidential plan is to ban Muslims from entering the country. I'm going to go over a bit more of the situation and whether it may or may not violate any human rights. Just as a bit of background, this is Donald Trump. Now at the age of 70, Donald Trump is one of the world's most successful businessmen. He's worth over $3.9 billion and is ranked 156 on Forbes' 400 list this year. Donald Trump is the man behind Trump Organization, holding company for Donald Trump's several business ventures and investments. It is without a doubt that Donald Trump is one of the world's most famous figures. The world was quite shocked when he first announced that he was running for president, but he proved to be a liable candidate and powered his way through the Republican nomination. And now he's facing off Hillary Clinton, former Secretary of State, for a seat of the office. Trump is well known to be against immigration from troubled countries, such as some from the Middle East, South America, and even Mexico. More specifically than that, Donald Trump has publicly shared his disagreements with the religion of Islam and the people of Islamic countries. With the rise of terrorism and violence in Western countries, most cases claimed by ISIS, an extremist Muslim group, Donald Trump has come up with more reasons for the world to hate Islamic people. And if he gets elected president, essentially he will put a ban on Muslim people from entering the United States of America. Even Muslims from Middle Eastern countries like the UAE, countries that the US does business with. Donald Trump believes Muslims are a threat to the safety of the American people, and feels as though eliminating them would reduce the number of terrorist attacks in the US and maybe even in the rest of the world.
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what the hell is going on.
So what's going to happen if Donald Trump gets elected president and isn't able to carry out his ban on the Muslims? So his initial plan is simple. Every single Border Patrol officer in U.S. international airports working at immigration are going to be required to ask people at immigration whether they're Muslim or not. If they answer yes to the question, then the people would be banned and restricted from stepping foot onto U.S. soil. Also, passport holders from certain Islamic countries will be denied access of an American visa. So now to the big question. Does Donald Trump's plan to ban Muslims from the United States protect or violate any human rights? Firstly, by isolating the Islamic population, Donald Trump is violating the first human right, and that is that everybody in the world has the same rights. And no matter who you are or no matter what skin color you are still entitled to the same rights as everybody else in the world. The biggest rights that are being violated in this situation are the rights to travel. Article 13 states anybody is allowed to leave their country and roam freely inside their country. If Muslims are not allowed to enter the United States, then Donald Trump is not granting them their rights to travel internationally. That directly correlates to Article 14. Article 14 states that if your human rights are not being protected in your home country, you are allowed to flee and seek asylum in a new country. If Muslims are not granted the right to enter the United States, then that's a violation of the human rights. As we can see in the Middle East, in countries like Syria, the Middle East being a geographical location that happens to be densely populated by Muslims, we see the situation there with refugees. The US could potentially be the next stop for the refugees. Now it's Europe, and it is apparent in the world news today that there's been several problems with Europe denying access for these refugees to come in. America, a place being known for their job opportunities, refugees may want to come to America to seek a new life. But Article 18 states that anybody has the right to practice a religion, change a religion, or not practice at all. In Donald Trump's anti-Islamic plan, this article is being violated because not only is he disallowing Islam from entering the country, but he is halting the practice of Islam in the United States. Article 2 states that everybody should have the same rights and everybody should be treated equally no matter their religion, political view, or race. By isolating the Muslims alone, Article 2 is not being protected. And such, like in the history of the United States, if this plan carries out and Muslims do get banned from the United States, it'll be similar to how the US discriminated against black African Americans, except Muslims would not be treated as slaves. Though it is obvious that several human rights are being broken in Donald Trump's plan, the rights of the American people are also being protected. Aside from the UDHR, closing the door to Islamic immigrants would betray the First Amendment of the United States and the country's reputation of being an open and a free land. The only rights that are being protected in the situation are the rights of the American people. By eliminating Muslims from the country, that lessens the amount of people in the workforce, therefore job security for Americans would ultimately be much better. And even though only very less than 1% of the world's 1.6 billion Muslims are actually reported to be extremists who believe in terrorism, there always is the possibility of an Islamic person going into the United States and committing a terrorist attack. By eliminating this factor, Article 3 in the UDHR that states everybody has the right to life and security is protected for the American people. If Donald Trump's plan to eliminate all the Islamic people from the United States works out, unfortunately, the human rights of the Islamic population cannot be protected, because once they're not allowed to enter the United States, that's already a violation of their human rights. And by violating these human rights towards Muslims, the US could potentially lose their alliance with several countries. One notable one being the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom houses more than 2.7 million Muslims and has a large population of immigrants. If the US do carry out this plan, there could be a possibility that the English would lose alliance with the United States. The United Nations will more than likely act upon the situation. They could potentially get several countries to make an alliance and go against the United States because the United States does not respect the human rights of the Muslim people. Similar to Adolf Hitler in World War II, Trump could potentially be seen as an evil person because of his hatred towards the Muslim religion. The only way that rights can be ensured for the Muslim people entering the US is if other countries and organizations act upon the situation if the plan to ban Muslim is carried out in the United States. Similar to the bill against slavery in the late 1800s, supported by the famous Abraham Lincoln, if this plan to ban Muslims does carry out successfully, it'll be extremely difficult to overturn it. Though if the United Nations manages to get countries to sign a bill, to sign a petition against the United States, then there could be a possibility that the plan gets overturned. That way Muslims can re-enter the United States and have equal rights. Given this plan is successful, segregation against Muslims does become the law. And when following the law results in violations of human rights, that's a huge issue. Now, because the plan hasn't been taken into full effect, the best strategy is for basically Donald Trump to lose the election. Because if he becomes the president, in a finger snap, this plan would go into full effect and the US will not be able to protect the rights of Islamic people. In order for the US to save alliances with countries that may support Islam and welcome refugees, the US cannot carry out with this plan to ban the Muslims. Also, there's a reputation at stake for not only the country, but for Donald Trump as well. It'll be a very wise decision if Donald Trump becomes president that he not carry out with this plan. If human rights want to be protected in the situation, the world and America has to take every step to make sure that this plan to eliminate Islam does not get carried out. With that being said, we can only predict what may happen in the future. Nobody can be 100% certain of what Donald Trump really is going to do if he gets elected to be president. All we know is that this plan does not secure human rights for the Islamic population. I hope that this video gave you some information of what human rights could potentially be violated if this plan becomes successful. And if you're an American voter, I hope that I gave you enough information to where you could be more certain of who you want to vote for to be your American president. Thank you very much for watching.